Yes, dear students, in today's lecture, I will give you a basic introduction about programs, and we'll discuss some of the experiments which which we are going to do in the lab, right? And how to execute the programs. What are the list of programs which are to be executed in our as per curriculum, right? So these are the list of programs or experiments which we need to do as per our curriculum. So in those, in today's lecture, I will explain you about first experiment, how to the procedure, and how to execute the program, how to what inputs we have to give, and how what outputs which we are going to get. So totally we have the 11 experiments which we need to do, and the required basic softwares, we can use any code block or any online CPP compiler we can use, and we can run our programs directly. You can type over there, and you can compile and run the program here, right? Or else you can use the code blocks, download the code block software. It is open source and freely available. You can download in your system, and you can open it, and you can type over there in code block editor and compile, and you can run it. So the first experiment is program to display names, roll numbers, and grades of 3 students. Here we are going to use array of objects concepts here. So here the inputs which we need to give is name, roll number, and grades of 3 students, right? So these we have to take the inputs from the standard input device like keyboard here, and after that simply without we no need to do any processing here. Whatever input you have given, those inputs you have to simply display it here, right? So that is the output. So inputs are name, roll number, and grades of 3 students, right? And whatever inputs you have given, the asterisk inputs you have to display, right? So that is the output here, right? So in order to store the 3 students details here, we are going to use the array of objects concept here. So basically, you know what is meant by object. Object is nothing but it is an entity which stores the information of uh, one entity here, right? So here we are, let us take one student is a one entity here, because we have the 3 students. So we need to create the 3 objects here basically, right? So 3 objects, we have to give 3 different object names, right? Like student S1, S2, S3, like that here. So instead of that, giving the 3 different names for each object here. So we can use array of objects concept. That means you can create an array of objects here with single name, but you can use the indexes of the array here for 3 different students here. So that means you can declare the array of objects with size 3 here, right? So now the procedure, how to write the code here. First, what we have to do here, step one is include the required header files. Basically, iostream.h, you can include the iostream here, and then you can create a class. The class basically, class is nothing but it is a blueprint which consisting the properties and operations of the object here. Here the object is nothing but here it is a student. Object is a student here. So what are the student properties? As for our experiment is student roll number, name, and grade here. So that means these three we have to declare as an object here, and sorry, these three you have to declare as member variables, and uh, operations are read details and print details. These are you can declare it as a member functions here, right? So this class is having member variables as name, roll number, grade, and member functions as read details and print details, right? So this read details is for reading the taking the inputs from the user here, and print details is for displaying the output here, right? This function. So that means for displaying the data of the students. So this is about class declaration. So basically class consisting of member variables as well as member functions. The member variables here are name, roll number, grade, and member functions are read details and print details here. Okay. So these you have to declare within the class here. After declaring a class, then define the member functions, right? So the member functions can be declared, can be defined either inside of the class or outside of the class here. So that depends on your wish here. Suppose if you want to define the member function itself inside of the class, you no need to define it outside here. So there itself you can. Suppose if you want to define the member functions outside of the class here, so you need to declare the member functions inside of the class and define it outside of the class here, right? So here the member functions which we need to define are read details and print details, right? So after member function definition is over, then create a main method. That is a main function because the program execution begins from the main itself here. So after within the main function, create array of objects inside the main method using the class name here. So that means in order to create array of objects here, you have to use the class name. Here class name we can give it as a student. And then how to create the object array of object by using student class name here, student array name and size of the array here. That's it. It is similar just like how you create the arrays for the basic data types like int, a of 10, float, s of float, s of 20, like that here. So instead of int float, here we are using class name as a data type here. So by using class name as a data type, we are creating array objects here, right? So then read the data into a member variables of the class here. So in order to take the inputs from the standard input device, we have to call the read details function, member function here. Actually, the read detail member functions can read the values from the users. That is, the input takes from the users here. So because here we are going to read the details of 3 students, so you need to call these read details function 3 times here. So instead of typing this 3 times, you can use the looping concept here, and you can you can use that you can call the read details function from within the loop here. That is a object name dot function name here, right? So finally, after input have been taken, then you have to display the outputs here. In order to display the output here, again we have to call the member function print details here, right? Further, because it has to print the 3 student details. Again, you have to use the loop, and from the within the loop, you call the print details function, which will display the 3 students details here, right? So this is the procedure, right? So how to write the code here? First, what we need to do here, include the required header files, then declare the class here. The class consisting of what here? Student name, student number, and grade as the member variables, and read details and print details as a member functions here. The read details functions will take the inputs from the user, and print details functions will display the result here, right? And after class declaration is over, then define the member functions, right? This can be defined either inside or outside of the class here, right? Suppose if you want to define the member functions outside of the class, the member functions must be declared within the class only here, right? So after the fourth step is create the main method, right? So when we start the main method definition here, because your program execution begins from the main method itself here, right? So within the main method, the first step is you have to create array of objects here by using the class name itself, then call the member functions read details, and then call the member function print details here. Read details is for taking the inputs from the user, print details is for displaying the result here. So next, this is the actual code here. So as for the step 1, so you have to include the required header files. So here the required header file is what here? Hash include IO stream.h input output stream.h header file here, which is required which is required to perform some uh, to use some library functions like input output functions. We have to use the uh, iostream.h header file here, right? So this we have to include. This is the header file, just like in C how we include the stdio.h. Okay, so which supports printf and scanf functions, right? So or any library functions you can use here once it is included in your code here. So that means all ready-made functions we can use in our program, right? So next one is using namespace std here. The purpose of this namespace std is, suppose here if the same variable names or same class names or same function names are repeatedly used here, in order to differentiate those, we have to use the namespace here, right? So very simple example here. Suppose if in a class, if two persons are having the same name here, suppose if you want to call those persons, so we need to add some additional information, so that either we can call by using their roll numbers, or by we can call by using their father name, like that. That is additional information, not because to differentiate those two persons here, because both two persons are having the same name, right? So additional information we have to use to differentiate those. So for the same purpose, so here using namespace std we are using here, right? So suppose same variable names or same class names are used here. So we need some additional information not to differentiate those. So that additional information is provided by using namespace std here. Next, another step is what we have to do here, declaration of the class. So see here how the class can be declared here. So class is the keyword, and class name is the student here. This you can give any valid identifier name here, and within the this is the opening of the class, and this one is the closing of the, this is the opening of the class, and this is the closing of the class. And the class consisting of what here, member variables as well as member functions. Let's see how, what are the member variables here: name of the student, roll number of the student, and grade of the student here, right? So that is what here I have given the declared the three member variables. One is name, roll number, grade here, and name is character type here, and this is array of string here, because a student can name cannot be a single character here, so that's what I'm using the character array. So the name maximum size is 50 characters here, and roll number is always integer here, or we can also use this if it is a combination of alphanumeric here, you can use it as a character here. And grade, actually it must be a character here, so this you can write it as a character and give the grade here, right? These are the member variable declaration, and these member variables are declared as a private here. This is an access specifier, you know. If you declare any member as a private, these members are not accessible from outside of the class here, right? So because these are confidential data, so you can declare these as a private members here. Next, declaration of the member function. So what are the member functions we have here? Two member functions. One is read details. So this is to take the, to read the student details, and another one is print details, to display the student details here, right? So the read here, we are only declaring the member functions here. So the declaration consisting of what here? Function return type, this is a void, and function name is the read details, and parameters. Because it is not having any parameters here, simply I'm using the void here. You know what is the purpose of the void here? Void means a function cannot return any value after doing its task here. So that means after completion of its task, it doesn't return any result back to its calling environment. So that is the meaning of void here. Okay. So that is what both functions are declared with void here, right? So this is read details is for display, for reading the to read the student details from the standard input device. Print details is to display the student details on standard output device. So here we are only declared the member functions. These member functions are declared as a public here, right? So we have the private members as well as public members. You know, these private and public are the access specifiers, and finally close the class, and class closing must be ended with the semicolon here. So because so this entire class will be treated as one statement by the compiler here, right? So next on the class declaration is over here, and then So definition of the member function, because the class member functions are declared inside the class, I'm going to define the member functions outside of the class here. So in order to define the member functions outside of the class, so you have to give the first one is a return type of the function, because while we have declared the member function, return type of the function is void. So this void is given, and student it is the class name which represents that function is belongs to which class here. So you can see here these member functions are declared inside of the student class here. So that is what the class name represents, in which class these member functions belongs to here. This is the scope resolution operator which represents the scope of the member function, because where in which class it is available, and read details, it is the name of the function void here. And every function definition will have the body of the function. This is the body of the function here. So within the body of the function, you have to write the statements how it reads the data from the user here, because this read details function is used to read the details from the details of the student from the standard input device here. First, you have to enter the student name. So it is output statement, and then you will enter some name here that will be taken by the cin statement, which will store into a variable name here, and enter roll number. Okay, so here which will read the roll number which you entered here. Next, enter grade obtained here. You can also enter the grade, right? So these all will be taken from the user, and those will be stored in the variables name, roll number, and grade here, right? And next, after that, another function is member function is print details. So the print details purpose is to display the input, whatever you have given. This we have to use, right? So that is to display the name, roll number, and grade of the students here, right? Which will display simply here we have to use the output statement, that is cout student name. So the name of the student which you have entered, that will be displayed here. Cout roll number of the student which you have given, that will be displayed. Cout grade obtained, whatever grade you have given, that will be displayed here. Only three statements which displays the name, roll number, and grade here, and close the function. So now the definition of the member functions are over here. Next, creation of the main function, because every program execution begins from the main function, and every program must have at least one function, that is the main here, right? So within the main function, what is the first task which we need to do here as per the procedure? Create an array of object here. So here you have to create an array of object. So how do you create array of object? By using the class name. The class name is student here, and S is an array name. 3 is the size of the array here, right? So this is array of object whose size is 3 here, right? So these each object stores a one student details here, because we need the 3 student details. So we need to create the 3 objects here. So instead of 3 objects, we are creating an array of object with whose size is 3 here, right? So that's what you can see here in the right side diagram here, S of 0, S of 1, S of 2. So one copy will be created for each object here. S of 0, that is the first student, name, roll number, grade here. And S of 1, that is the second student, name, roll number, grade here. And S of 2, that is the third student, name, roll number, grade here. So these 3 objects will be created here, right? So the memory will be allocated separately for each object, right? And then one integer variable you need to declare. This is for repetition of the loop we have to use here. And then you have to call the read details function. Why? Because to read the student details here. So this I'm using within the loop, because this read details function we need to call the 3 times, because we need to read the 3 student details here, right? So for that, instead of typing this 3 times, I'm using within the loop here. So the for loop I'm using here, I equal to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. So this I value will be repeated from 0 to 2 here. That is S of 0 read details. So which reads the first student details here. And S of 1 read details, second student details. S of 2 third read details, third student details. You can read it and you can store in these 3 objects here, right? So when I value becomes 4, so which will exit the loop here, right? So next, after reading the student details, simply we have to display those student details here. For that, what we have to, again we have to call the print details function here to display the student details. So this print detail function, again we need to call the 3 times because we need to display the 3 student details. Again we have to use the within the loop here. So loop begins from I equal to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. So which s of 0 dot print details. So that means which display the first student details here. S of 1 dot print details will display the second student details. S of 2 dot print details here, which displays the third student details here. So the print details is called 3 times here. Finally, return 0 because the return type for the for the main function which we have written is int. So this function has to be written any integer value. So that's what I'm using the return 0, and then finally close the main function here. So this is the expected output which we will get from this program. The first what we have to do here, we have to read the 3 student details here. So enter student name. So this is enter roll number, enter grade. So these are first student details which will we have to read. Next, the second student, again enter student name, roll number, grade, student name, roll number, grade. So we have read the 3 student details, and then we have to display those. These 3 students details are displayed again. Student name, roll number, grade obtained. Student name, roll number, grade obtained. Student name, roll number, grade obtained here. So this is about first experiment which we are going to do here, right? Now let us see how to compile here. Just I'm using the online compiler here, and I will show you how to run this code here. Right? So this is the code which we have taken here, right? Simply you can copy, you can use any editor, like even in Notepad also you can type the program and you can copy and you can paste, or here itself you can type the program. In online editor you can use here. Simply run this. So which will ask you some student for student name like Raju, you can give here. A number you can give some 570, right? And grade you can give any grade you can give here A, and simply you get it. Sorry for this small error here. In terms of grade, we have to change here. It is a character type, right? So now once again run it. Small change. Simply give the also number 570. Grade like A you can give here. So second, it is asking second students details here again. Ronnie, like 576 you can give here. Next you can give the grade B. Next, again third student details here which is asking. Kumar 480 some C. Now you can see the output here. So now the 3 student details here, whatever you entered, these are displayed here, right? Student name, roll number, grade. Student name, roll number, grade. Student name, roll number, grade obtained here. So this is about experiments, right? In the next class, we will see about second experiments. And if you have any still, if you have any doubts, you just ping me, or you can give it to me. Thank you.